In the early 19th century, the map of India didn't represent a single nation. It was a massive mosaic of distinct kingdoms, empires, and princely states, where deep regional loyalties defined life. When resistance against British rule flared up, most notably in the 1857 uprising, it ultimately broke apart. The rebels fought with immense courage, but they fought as localized units, protecting specific lands, lacking a shared national consciousness to bind their efforts together. To forge these diverse cultures into a single unified power, they required a common struggle that crossed every border and language. The British Empire provided that catalyst. Through decades of sweeping economic extraction that punished every level of society equally, the colonizers unintentionally provided the heat needed to weld a new national identity. The financial ruin was total. British land revenue policies trapped peasants under exorbitant taxes and permanent debt. Simultaneously, local artisans and craftsmen were driven into poverty as colonial authorities dismantled Indian industries to feed British factories. This misery affected the upper tiers of society as well. Educated Indians found themselves systematically shut out of higher government posts, regardless of their qualifications. Viceroy Lord Lytton served as the primary face of this era. He took an already exploitative system and pushed it into blatant aggression. In 1877, while millions of Indians were dying in a massive famine, Lytton hosted the Grand Delhi Durbar, an opulent, incredibly expensive celebration to proclaim Queen Victoria the Empress of India. Lytton followed the Durbar with a wave of legislative insults. This text outlines the Vernacular Press Act, which gagged local language newspapers, and the Arms Act, which criminalized the carrying of weapons for Indians alone. Soon after, the backlash against the Waicest-Ilbert Bill further proved that the colonial government would legally defend the superiority of Europeans at all costs. Nationwide fury was now simmering at a critical level. But raw anger is temporary. To turn that shared misery into a precise political weapon, the movement needed a new intellectual framework. Before the population could effectively challenge the British, reformers realized they had to repair the deep internal fractures within Indian society. Raja Ram Mohan Roy used rationalism to combat sati and the caste system, justifying the demand for political rights. Jyotiba Phule expanded this, crusading to educate women and lower castes. He argued national unity was impossible without social equality. Swami Dayanand Saraswati focused on cultural self-respect. He urged the population to reject the idea of Western cultural superiority, restoring pride in their own heritage and popularizing a specific, powerful concept: India for the Indians. Together, these reformers transformed a fragmented population into one possessing unified cultural pride and moral authority. They built the ideology, but an ideology requires a delivery mechanism to synchronize millions of people across a continent. The vernacular press became that delivery mechanism, acting as the nervous system of the rising nationalist movement. These newspapers bypassed colonial censorship to expose the daily hypocrisy of British rule while sharing the democratic ideals of liberty and home rule. A merchant in Mumbai, a teacher in Kolkata, and a lawyer in Chennai now realized their local grievances were identical. Their isolated struggles merged into a single synchronized front. The societal pressure had reached a boiling point. This newly unified public needed a formal structure to channel their demands. They needed a political release valve. Local political associations were too small to be heard. The movement required a single, undeniable national platform. In December 1885, 72 delegates traveled from vastly different provinces and cultures to converge in Bombay. They established the Indian National Congress. This group photograph captures the formal, physical beginning of the organized national movement in India. The British Viceroy, Lord Dufferin, supported its creation under the belief that it would act as a harmless safety valve, preventing another violent uprising by letting educated Indians air their frustrations. The Congress evolved into a disciplined political machine. They formulated unified demands, organized massive public campaigns, and systematically cemented the idea at a single Indian identity. The specific synthesis of shared economic ruin, intellectual reform, and strategic political unity engineered a force that the British could no longer fracture. This foundation made the eventual march to 1947 inevitable.